Amigos, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a una emisión más, Status Culo. Carlos Verte aquí, totalmente en vivo y en directo, desde los estudios de Casero Podcasts, donde se hace ¿qué? Sino audio. Eso se hace en Casero Podcast. Y vamos a tener un invitado muy especial para que usted lo disfrute. Es una charla con un comediante estadounidense de un renombre muy interesante, uno de los mejores comediantes hoy en día, al menos a mi parecer, ¿ok? Y le escribí por Instagram, me dijo que se arme y va a estar con nosotros aquí en este episodio. Su nombre es Neal Brennan. Si no lo ubica, le recomiendo que lo busque, lo googlee. Neal Brennan con doble N, bueno, 3 N's en total. Y si usted está escuchando el episodio en Spotify, le recomiendo que, bueno, y no habla usted inglés, le recomiendo que vaya a YouTube. Ahí lo vamos a tener con los subtítulos para que usted le entre macizo y sabroso y se lleve una buena experiencia. Claro que sí, vamos a marcarle.
There we go.
Hey, good night. I mean, good evening.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Man, you got to work on your English colloquialisms.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing? How's your night going so far? Is it
I'm
going
going to
good?
read. Is this official? Are we rolling?
We're rolling.
Oh, okay. I'm good, bro. I'm working on this new show, and it is harder than the last show I did, which was 3 mics, which ended up on Netflix. But before I did it on Netflix, I did it in New York, like live.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing this one. But I have a director, and there's just a lot of moving parts, and it's a pain in the butt.
I was just reading about you, and I was reading about the 3 Mics show that you have on Netflix. I was rewatching it last night actually, and I was reading that it was a show that you started doing in New York City, and it has a director. It was, it had somebody directing the whole show, like very like theater-like, or.
Yeah, I mean, when you see it, it's theatrical, and it's a pain in the butt. I mean, not a pain in the butt. It's theatrical, so it's not just stand-up.
Yeah.
It's like there's lighting and there's just stuff you got to worry about.
Yeah, sure. Like, it's very well timed. Like, there's parts when you're saying something and then the light goes off and then it goes on back on again, and you're at a different mic. So that has to be perfectly timed. So it requires
it's not, again, it turns out that that's virtually nothing compared to all the shit I'm doing on this show.
Okay, so it's gonna be like a whole different thing then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So I just have a quick question. I'm a very big fan of the whole stand-up comedy thing in the U.S. I'm a very big fan of what you do, a very big fan of what a lot of other comedians do. And are there any differences between LA-based comedians and, comedians based in New York City? Is this a weird question? Or is
no. Where do you live?
I live in Mexico City.
Did you grow up in the States?
No, I grew up here in Mexico City.
Your English is like better than a lot of people that are born and raised in LA.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'm proud of you. Thanks, yeah, like it's very, like there's no accent.
I just love everything that comes from the States. Ever since I was a little kid, I used to watch video games, movies, everything that came into my hands. I just, consume it, watch it, and it just kind of like got stuck or something. And I love watching comedy. I started doing comedy back in 2012, and I wasn't a big fan of comedy. And as soon as I started doing this, I watched like pretty much every comedian that I could watch on Netflix and YouTube. And I'm a very big fan. So I got, it is my understanding there's a certain kind of comedian that lives in.
Yeah, the simple way to put it would be New York. I mean, it's overly simplistic because there's plenty of exceptions, but in New York, you learn, it's more about writing.
Okay.
And it's more about just doing it a lot, because there's so many comedy clubs here. You can do 6 spots in a night.
Yeah.
In New York. In LA, you can maybe do like, LA, you'd be hard pressed to do 6 spots in a week. I mean, you could do more. You could probably do 10 or 12, but in New York, you could for real do 12. You could do 20 plus 25.
Like a month?
That's in a night. So you just get more like automatic and kind of it. And then the culture of it is, and I don't know why it started like this, but LA, you can make it like there will be people on shows in LA that are just good looking.
Okay. So it's just
that aren't even that funny. It's just more like, okay, well, he's good looking, or she's good looking, or where in New York, it's just you have to be funny or else you will not be on the show.
Okay. So is it more like there's a like this? How can I say this? Like a very considerable scene in LA because there's like Hollywood and all of this. Like the entertainment industry is very big over there. Is that it?
That's exactly right.
So if you go to New York City, it's actually just you're gonna learn how to write funny shit.
Yeah, it's less. There's less you can't go on auditions. You can't book a sitcom.
Okay.
You
got to be in LA to do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying you can't book a sitcom in New York, so you have to be good at comedy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You have to get good at the thing instead of like, I'm doing this and then hopefully, people hear about me and then we'll get it. It's like there's no and then.
Okay.
Yeah. It's for its own sake.
Okay. So I was watching Three Mics, and there's this one part where you say that you used to work at a comedy club. You were the man that got the tickets from the audience. And was that in LA or New York City? How is it like you just?
I was in New York.
I was in New York, and you were just watching comedians on stage, and then you were like developing this kind of like funny minded or funny mindset, or is it something you've always had?
I was always pretty funny, and then my brother was a comedian, named Neal Brennan, and so I used to come up to New York in high school, and so I did. I came up to New York in high school, and I would be around comedy clubs, and then when I came here for NYU, I got into New York University for film school, which is a good film school that I didn't really deserve to get into. But got in, and then
you dropped out, right?
Huh?
You dropped out of college, right?
Yeah, I dropped out after a year, which I'm still not sure if that was good for NYU or bad for them. Like, I'm not sure if they should have let me in. They took a chance on a kid, and I fucked them.
Yeah, but you did a lot of things. Like you directed a lot of episodes of Chappelle Show, so I think it's their law.
Well, no, you're not wrong. Like it was helpful.
Yeah.
But I never credit them for it.
Okay.
So that's what they want. Although I gave them $25,000 for a year. So that's pretty good.
That's a lot.
What do they want? And so I was working the door at the comedy. I got a job working at the door at the comedy club while I was in college. And then, the older guys were, or they wasn't even old. The older guys were like Mark Maron, Louis C.K., Ray Romano, Jon Stewart.
Big names.
But they were all not starting, but they maybe been doing it 5-6 years.
Okay.
And hadn't really popped yet. And then the guy my age was Dave Chappelle. So I was still working the door. He was starting to do really well career-wise. And he was very generous with me in terms of like brought me out to LA, showed me kind of showed me the ropes a little bit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile I started writing stuff and would give him like things here and there, like little lines for his act.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it for kind of a bunch of people, and then it snowballed from there, but I still wasn't doing stand-up.
Okay. You started doing stand-up like, recently, kind of like maybe 10 years. Is that it? Or
now it's getting to be 2021, 2007, 14.
That's
14 years.
That's a lot. Like I've been doing it for like 9 years, maybe. You've been doing it for 14. But so you were just you were writing, TV shows and movies and sketch shows, but you weren't doing
I was
stand-up.
writing for kids TV shows. One was called All That on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And then I wrote for a dating game show called Singled Out. And so yeah, just doing that stuff. And then Dave, me and Dave were friends the whole time. And then he was like, we should do a weed movie. So we wrote this movie, Half Baked.
You told him that at when he won the Mark Twain prize, right? Yeah. How was that? Is that like you just started working on that movie, or was that based on a previous idea you guys had?
No, we didn't really have an idea. We went into it kind of not cold, but we went into it like, I don't know, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I guess it worked out. Like, it sounds like glib to say that. Like, let's just say it worked out. But it didn't work out in the short term, but it was helpful in terms of developing how to deal with TV or movie production.
Okay.
Like how to handle people, how to get in front of stuff.
So was that Half Baked like the first time you guys were writing partners, or had you written anything before that?
No, yeah, we just on that. I mean, like I said, I gave him a couple things for his act.
Okay.
But nothing like formal or particularly organized.
Yeah. And that was kind of like the starting point for what became Chappelle's show. Am I correct?
Yeah. That was the sort of jumping on point. And it was, like I said, it was, the movie didn't do well. So I kind of stunk our relationship up for a couple of years. And then once the smoke cleared, we were able to reunite and do the show.
That's, I mean, I'd never seen Chappelle's show before. And it just premiered.
Before when?
Not before in my life. I just seen like the Black Bush sketch on YouTube, but I'd never seen anything other than that, and Black White Supremacist sketch on YouTube, but I'd never seen the whole show before. And it just premiered on Netflix like a couple of months ago here in Mexico, and I was able to watch it, and it's beautiful.
Oh, that's funny. It never occurred to me, because when it was on Netflix, it was like, oh, cool. But it was never, I just thought, who hasn't seen it by this point?
Yeah, a lot of people in Mexico we weren't familiar with it. I mean, I'd read about it, but I hadn't seen it yet. And it just premiered, and I saw this Redemption Song video that Dave released.
Right.
And I was very touched by that. I'm a huge Dave Chappelle fan, so I was watching that.
Who isn't?
And
what's not to like?
He's a real genius. I really like everything that he's done so far. And
yeah, he's great.
He's one of the best. The fact that he came back, like, were you in contact with him like after he quit the show?
Yeah. I was in contact with him. Not like there was a window where we weren't, and then we were.
Is there anything that are on Three Mics that you thought was a revolutionary thing when it came to doing stand-up? Because I think it's a very dynamic show, but it's also very different from anything that I've seen before. So I think
that was the point, was making there's so many stand-up specials at this point, right?
Yeah.
And there are guys like Dave, Chris Rock, Mulaney, Jim Jeffries, Louis, Bill Burr, Wanda Sykes, Sarah Silverman, I could go on and on. Schumer, like very, very good. Talk for an hour. I love this person. Ali Wong, like talk for an hour, love this person, etc. And I tried to play that game, and I did a Comedy Central special.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was a lot of good jokes on it, but the audience, and it got good ratings. The audience just didn't care.
Okay.
Like I didn't get any sort of, uptick. And I was like, well, I'm not just going to waste my time, because I was old when I started. I was like 33 when I started stand-up. So I was old when I started, and I just thought, I'm not going to waste my time doing just monologues. So I was like, I'll do one more special, and I'll try to make it interesting for myself.
Okay.
And that was sort of I always think some of the best stuff is like, a message to the firing squad, where you're like, all right, I know you're about to kill me. Put me out of my misery. But before I go, I just want to do this one thing, or I want to say this one thing.
Yeah.
And that was sort of my MO on Three Mics.
And after that, did you write like one could call it a regular stand-up comedy show, or is it?
Yeah, I had it. Then I wrote a new hour.
Okay.
And I toured that, and that did well. And then Netflix offered me a half hour on the Comedians of the World thing.
I watched that too.
And I was like, is that the one you were on?
No, I wasn't on. I have 2 specials. It's in Spanish.
Okay, so full hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Which one should I watch?
Oof. I don't know. Like it's like you're making me choose between both my kids.
I know. Oh, I know what I'm doing.
Then you should watch my second special. It's called Furiañera. It's got one of the most infamous letters in Spanish, which is letter ñ. Doesn't exist in English. It's like an N with a little thing on the top.
Sure, I know that. I know it. I can get it on my keyboard.
That's good.
I have to hit Control.
And then you got the ñ. That's the one that I like the most. There's another special. If you don't want to like get to see me like there, you could wait just a couple of months, and then there's another one coming where I think that it's like a more down to earth comedy, like more mature. At least that's my take on that.
The first one was more mature?
No, there's another one coming. So
got it.
If you just want to like wait, because I'm really ashamed of what I've done so far, because you are one of the great minds of comedy, and I wouldn't like you watching the shit that I just have on Netflix. So one could say that it's kind of shit, but it's also one of the main things that, if I might say something good about myself, caught the attention of Louis C.K. when he came down to Mexico City, and he invited me over to do like 10 minutes of stand-up comedy in Spanish.
Oh, did he really? That's great.
Yeah, that was good. That was a great experience. And I've been thinking about moving to LA in a couple of years. That's why I was asking about the whole thing between LA and New York City. Like I got a couple of friends in LA, and they're already at the Comedy Store, and they're doing a lot of things. And that was one of the main things why I wanted to know what was the difference, because I want to get good at stand-up. It's a very complicated art form that, at least here in Mexico, it's not that well comprehended, and it's kind of difficult to make people.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like Trevor Noah's a friend of mine, and he was saying, like, stand-up comedy is so baked into America.
Yeah,
it's like just in the culture. Like it's a thing that Americans have done on television since the 50s.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, television came in 48, but like, so they've been doing stand-up pretty much from the beginning. Right.
Yeah.
And so when I remember Trevor saying there was no stand-up in South Africa before, 2003 or something. I'm like,
okay,
what? What do you mean? Like not on TV? It's like, no, it wasn't. Nobody had done it.
Yeah.
and I don't think Mexico's quite that, but it feels like it's just odd as an American to hear that.
Yeah, there's
what do you mean? Like, it's like you don't. No, we don't. McDonald's isn't even a good example. It's like we don't have telephones. That's what it sounds like to an American.
Yeah, we didn't have stand-up comedy like I don't know, like the way you would understand stand-up comedy. We used to have like a similar thing, but it wasn't that. And
but you're right. The thing you said about trying to understand the intricacies is correct, because it takes a while for like scenes to figure shit out.
Yeah.
So it might be a while before, like, you can see your own personal growth, right?
Yeah.
Like, I did this one, then this one, and then I got more mature and whatever. The whole scene's doing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, bad example, like Michael Jordan joins the NBA.
Yeah.
And everybody starts wearing baggier shorts because that's how he wore them.
Yeah.
It changes the game. It just changes defenses. It changes what people think can happen. It's like three-pointer. It's like when they make 3-point shots legal, and then that change. And now or Steph Curry is a better example, where Steph Curry expands what basketball can be, and then the whole league.
Yeah.
Young kids see it and go, oh, I can just shoot 3-pointer. Like, so you're influencing like a 15-year-old now.
Yeah.
No.
That's sometimes that creeps into my mind, and it's kind of scary. Like, have you ever had like a crisis when it comes to that? Have you ever thought about the influence that you've had on people across the world? Like, I mean, I might be one of those persons. There might be someone in South Africa.
The reason I did this is because of like, I have nothing to gain by. I'm probably never going to come. I do actually want to do a show in Mexico City, but it's more just about like, hey, I hear you're doing good shit, and that's dope. And I like, maybe this will help. I don't know. Like, maybe it'll help people. Like, you guys can. The whole thing is very handmade, no matter how big it gets, right?
Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres, huge, one of the biggest stars in the world, right?
Yeah.
Doing a stand-up act. She did a Netflix special that I worked on with her. I wrote some jokes for her.
Okay.
And it came from her and I just sitting on her porch talking. Yeah. And then I have texts of just like, you got to try that joke. She's like, what? Like, fighting me on jokes. And like, it's just very handmade. And like, you can I don't know. Like, I guess I'm just saying, like, you guys are a new scene, and it will only be what you make of it.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of complicated though, to try to get, like, right now there's a lot more people into it, but it's still kind of an unknown term. Like, stand-up comedy, it's like straight, like an English term in English, and a lot of people in Mexico don't really, like, what is that? Stand-up comedy? What the hell is that? And a lot of guys, they started doing podcasts, and that was like an easier way for people to digest what stand-up comedy in Mexico was, and it kind of like worked a lot better than stand-up did. But it is complicated to try and navigate through whatever people want and are expecting of you. Do you ever have like that thought, like, what the fuck am I going to do next? Like this new show that you were telling me about, like it's very complicated and stuff. Is that something you want to do, or is it something you feel that people want to see from you?
Well, the funny thing is, it's kind of both. I mean, somebody asked me, like, David Letterman was like, how are you going to follow 3 months? Right. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, I have the idea. And he's like, it's just so whatever. And so it's not so much that I'm chasing ghosts or whatever. it's just more that I like once you do a show like that, just doing an hour kind of feels a little shallow.
Yeah.
And also the way I built the shows is I can express more than just, I went to the store, did you see the new cereal? Fuck cereal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or whatever the setup is.
Yeah.
So I get to talk about pain, and I get to talk about, other emotions than just like, can you fucking believe this? I can also do that. So I'm lucky in that, I went to film school. I'm like, know how to direct stuff. I still direct commercials, and it's just being a little more dynamic, I guess.
Do you like?
Because, by the way, if I could, I always tell people, if I could crush as hard as Mulaney, I wouldn't do shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I could just get standing ovations off of pure charisma and talking, I would absolutely do that. I can't. So in the meantime, I don't really hit home runs, so I have to hit inside the park home runs.
Yeah. Do you think like a stand-up comedian can improve his or her charisma, or is that something that once they see you with that level of charisma?
I'm trying, man. I mean, I know it's embarrassing to say this, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get. I literally like listen to audiobooks about charisma.
Really? So
yeah,
that's something that you believe that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yes and no. I think most of it's like God-given, but I think you can improve it 15%. It's also just how to interact with people. That's a big part of it. It's like not trying to cut people off less in conversation, for instance, or stuff like that. So it's not so much. It's more just personal interactions and energy toward people, less dismissive. More like just warmer, more cordial. Stuff like that.
Yeah. It's kind of tough when it comes
but from doing stand-up, sorry to completely blow my point and cut you off. But
go ahead.
But from doing stand-up, like it is a journey to the center of yourself.
Yeah, it is.
I'll tell you who really well now from doing stand-up, yourself. You're like,
yeah.
I mean, you know your limitations. You get to learn them. If you don't know them beforehand, you learn your limitations. As a performer, as a person, as a character, all that shit.
Yeah, it is kind of like an inner journey to the center of yourself. It's complicated to get to see yourself in a fucking mirror and then go on a stage and
see what people respond to. That's the part that's sort of the bug out is seeing what people respond to, and then also more importantly what they reject.
Yeah.
Like where they're just like, we don't care about that part of you. Just shut up. Talk about whatever. Some people it's like talk about sex. They don't want to hear certain people talk about politics. They don't want to hear certain people talk about relations. It's like a lot of it's like your spirit.
Yeah.
And then some of it's just
like what the audience really wants to hear.
Your like what people just want as a product.
Yeah.
Like I don't want, in fact, like part of it's like, I don't want this good looking guy or good looking girl doing X. Like, don't talk about how you can't get laid, or if you're too good looking, I'm not going to trust your opinion about, politics, or there's just weird, you're dealing with people's prejudices. You really get to learn people too. That's the other big thing.
Yeah, sometimes there are times when I've taken like shelter in audiences that like what I do, but whenever I get exposed to audiences that are not like people who want to hear me, just me, it's kind of tough to go back out into the like the regular audience.
I mean, but you also know that it's very helpful.
Yeah.
You know that it's very informative.
It does help a lot.
You will absolutely find out if a joke's good or not. You know, based on you can't romance them. You know?
Yeah.
You're just dealing with the quality of the material.
Yeah. Is there anything like do you like writing comedy for like sketches, movies, or is it stand-up comedy that you like more than those? Or is it just comedy in general?
Stand-up comedy is the most direct in that if I write a movie, I'll know if the joke works or not in a year and a half.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I can write a joke tonight. I'm staying near the Comedy Cell. I can just go there and see it. And like that right there is worth. Did I put you on? Can you not see me?
Yeah, your camera's off. I thought you were doing something, so I didn't want to say anything.
Oh, my fault, man. I want the people to see my pretty face. Start video. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So
It's right back.
So yeah, like it's way more direct. And then the other thing about writing for TV or movies or whatever is you just have to deal with a lot of people going like, we don't think so. Whereas stand-up, you just go, I'm not sure. Let me see. Whereas in all the other things, they go, we're sure. No. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm way more of an expert than you are.
Yeah.
And I get where they're coming from. That's their job. Like they kind of have to be like that, but doesn't mean that that's something I want to participate in, you know?
Yeah. That's one of the things that I like about stand-up too, that you do everything. You get to decide what goes on and what does not go on stage. Whereas when you have to write for somebody else, that's kind of like tough to have to fight that person or fight the director or fight the producer or whatever. And that's one of the things that I love about this. It's a very, very unique and personal kind of art form. That's very beautiful.
It's the most personal. I mean, there's no middleman. You don't even need a microphone.
Yeah.
It's better when you have a microphone, but like
you don't really need anything.
Yeah, you could do it without a microphone. You could do it. You could do stand up in the dark in the forest.
Yeah.
If you really had to, if you wanted to bad enough.
Yeah. You don't really need anything, just your fucking mind. There's this one thing that I've been thinking about like lately. I don't know what your take on this is, but do you think that as you grow older, do you become like a better comedian, or is that something that could not happen?
I think to a point, and then you stop. I think you get better to a point, and then you get. I'm not married and don't have kids, so I feel like that could keep me kind of young and relevant.
Okay.
But I could also hurt me, because then I seem like a dirtbag.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you married? Affirm my values, mister.
So you're not married? Do you plan on getting married?
No, sir.
Or,
I don't know.
You don't know?
If I meet somebody I want to marry.
Okay. That's good.
I know that's like a very broad thing to say, but I'm not going to. It's not like I love the institution. Like it doesn't. No one I know. It doesn't look enjoyable at all. So yeah. I'm not kind of riding for the institution. If I meet somebody that I want to spend my life with, great. But a lot of this is in the new show.
About this whole thing about marriage.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about not being married and not having kids.
Okay.
And I feel bad because I feel very judged about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's the judgment is not as bad as a shitty marriage would be.
Yeah, I get you. I get you there. I think.
Are you married?
I'm not married. I have I am married. I mean, I didn't go to the church or signed any papers, but I do live with my girlfriend. We got 2 kids. It's tough sometimes, but you know, the whole thing about having kids it's great. It served at least, you know, my comedy material, having these 2 kids. It always does something. It kind of like boosts your creativity when it comes to comedy. That's what I think, at least. Like,
yeah, I mean, it can't. That's the thing, is there is no one boost other than, of course, cocaine. Nobody knows what does it. You know what I mean? Like, nobody knows. Like, and then after that, it's like Chris Rock wrote a bunch of jokes when he got a mortgage.
Yeah.
Like, Dave was fucking hilarious when he was in high school. So I don't know.
Yeah. There's this one thing that just comes into your life and you see it with a different like visuals, optics, and then you write a lot of comedy shit about that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, dope. You're talking about that's a different, it's like there's a new thing that's disruptive to your life that you're kind of inspired by, or at least agitated by.
Yeah.
Still, I'd rather just like go to Japan for 3 weeks or something, you know what I mean? Like, there's other ways to get inspired. I just don't want to. I don't feel inspired to have kids, so I'm not going to do it just for
inspiration.
Yeah.
You kind of like thinking if I had my kids just to get inspiration and write about them. I hope not, because I really felt like a surge of love when I saw them for the first time. But I can also tell you that every time that some shitty thing happens with them, the first thing that comes into my mind is like, how the hell can I turn this into something funny on stage? It does kind of work.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, I get it. Like, look, man, it's just not, if I would only have kids, you know, people will get married for love. I would only have kids for love.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it for the material. Like I said, I'll just go to fucking Paraguay.
Just to have somebody to love then.
Right. I'll go to Paraguay to see what they're talking about and then maybe come with a joke. I don't know what inspires jokes in me. I still don't know. So I can't say that one thing will definitely beget something.
Yeah. Is there anything in the U.S. that you think is like an obstacle for young comedians to, I don't know, maybe not rise to stardom or anything like that, but
I mean, I think there's never been fewer obstacles. The biggest obstacle to comedy is comedy itself. It's so hard that just because there's, you know, more ways to succeed, YouTube, et cetera, doesn't mean that people have duller senses of humor.
Yeah.
People are very sophisticated when it comes to comedy now. So it's harder in that way because there's more comedy that you have to beat, which is kind of what leads me to do my weird ass shows.
Yeah. I get you.
So yeah.
I think that the US really is not just the first place that kind of like created stand-up comedy, but it's also the place where the best comedians in the world, at least when it comes to stand-up comedy. And
we're the only one. I mean, that's the thing, is we're the only, we nobody else was doing it. At least nobody else was doing it. Well, let me not say that. Not many people were doing it just culturally. And there's something about America that lends itself to people going like, what? You see this, like getting agitated and talking back publicly. It's like a very American thing. It's like, you know, we're one of the only countries with a real robust freedom of speech. So you can't do good stand-up in China because you can't talk about, you know, 2/3 of life.
Yeah.
So we can and are rewarded for talking about it in America.
That's a true thing. Like the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that's you guys get like a comedian there to tell politicians, talk back to politicians, like you just said. If that happened in Mexico, you get fucking executed in a second.
Yeah. So like there aren't many obstacles other than, I mean, the thing is, because I got to get off, but I got to I have to call somebody. Don't worry about who. Here's what I would say. If there's young people that want to do stand-up in Mexico, find a place to do it and do it to death. Just do the shit out of it and then go to a new place and do it there. Just do it in as many places as you can. And the thing that happened in America is the people who wrote the most jokes are the most successful comedians without fail.
Okay.
If you look at like the top 10 of all time, I can tell you how many hours they wrote. Almost to a person.
Okay.
The people alive, the people like, doing it now, Burr, Louis, Dave, Chris, Allie, Schumer, Wanda, Sarah, they all write a lot, Schumer's written 5 hours or 4 hours. Allie's written 3 hours, 4 hours. Dave's written, that are recorded 10 hours.
Yeah.
I guess he's recorded 7, but Chris has done 7 hours. Louis done 6 hours. Bill Burr's done 8 hours. Jim Jeffries has done probably 6 hours.
6 hours,
so,
it's all about
you
writing.
Sound like you're doing good with it sounds like you're probably writing more than everybody.
Well, I'm trying. It's hard.
Well, sometimes. Dude, that's all you can do is try. I mean, that's the thing. It's like no one crowns you.
Yeah.
You just go like, I gotta write my way out of whatever this. I gotta either write my way out of this mood, or this financial situation, or this country, or this relationship, or whatever. You're the only way out in comedy is by writing jokes.
Yeah. That's thanks a lot for the advice, man. Thanks a lot for coming over, and I really appreciate it. And once again, I'm a huge fan and appreciate it. I'm kind of nervous, but thank you very much.
Yeah, don't be nervous
for talking to us.
I'm just in my bed. It's not like fucking.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes. I mean, maybe one day you will be in front of somebody that you really look up to.
I'm in front of people all the time that I'm nervous around.
And you don't get nervous?
No, I get nervous. But I don't really get nervous in front of comics.
I do a lot.
I'm with you. Like, and also don't worry about it. There's plenty of people I get nervous in front of.
Well, Neal, thank you very much for coming here and
Hey, you have different names on every platform, so I don't know your name exactly.
Carlos?
Yep.
Vallarta. That's my name.
All right. Well, my Zoom says Orlando Noel Oliveros.
Yeah, that's the guy that, audio and video in the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking at 9 different.
Carlos Vallarta, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Okay.
Neal.
All right, brother. Nice meeting you. Good luck with everything.
Yeah. Goodbye.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Talk to you. Peace.
Bueno, pues ahí está. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos en una emisión más de Status QLO. Sigue grabando, ¿verdad? Ahí está. Pues nada. Estuvo muy verga. Es siempre, al menos personalmente, un placer poder hablar con las personas más letradas en cuanto a comedia se refiere. Neal es uno de los personajes más reconocidos, al menos en cuanto a su CV, currículum vitae. Si usted lo busca en IMDb, Wikipedia, lo que sea, podrá encontrar una amplia lista de trabajos que ha hecho, audiovisuales, de series de televisión, películas, el Chappelle Show, y ahorita está haciendo stand-up. Bueno, ya lleva 14 años haciendo stand-up. Si quiere verlo, puede checarlo en Netflix. Three Mics se llama el especial. Está muy sabroso. Es una oreja de diferentes temas. Te trae de acá para allá, mano. No te suelta con estas emociones. Es una montaña rusa de emociones el Three Mics. Se lo recomiendo ampliamente. Le recomiendo ampliamente Chappelle Show. Y nada, muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Gracias, Chino.
Hola, este es un tutorial rápido de cómo pueden suscribirse al canal de Chavos Banda y al canal de Carlos para disfrutar del contenido gratuito. Lo único que tienen que hacer es ir a la página de YouTube, como lo pueden ver aquí, y buscar el botón que dice suscribirse. Suscribirse. Con ese, si dan clic ahí, lo que va a pasar es que se van a suscribir al canal, van a estar en una lista y les van a llegar los avisos de cada vez que metemos un material nuevo. Pero si ustedes están interesados, bueno, esto es en el asunto tanto en el canal de Carlos como en el canal de Chavos Banda. Pero si ustedes están interesados en el contenido que generamos exclusivamente para los suscriptores que pagan, tienen que darle clic aquí en donde dice unirse. La gente que le dé clic ahí va a pagar una módica cantidad de, no me acuerdo, creo que son 50 pesos, no estoy bien, no recuerdo bien. Entonces, si le dan clic ahí, van a poder disfrutar de todo el contenido nuevo que estamos generando para los exclusivos, como es el Status QLO Platino, como es Duques y Campesinos. La nueva temporada de Duques y Campesinos va a estar aquí. Y hay algunas cosas que vamos sacando en el canal de Carlos Vallarta. El canal de Carlos es el único que por el momento tiene posibilidad de suscripción de manera monetaria, pues dinerito. Y cuando se suscriban, lo que hacen es ayudarnos a comprar más cámaras como las que estamos utilizando ahorita, comprar luces, comprar un green screen para que poder hacer cosas así chingonas como las que están pasando aquí atrás. Y pues nada, gracias por suscribirse, gracias por unirse a el canal más incongruente del YouTube y nos vemos pronto. Únanse o suscríbanse, de preferencia únanse.